You are listening to Unravel with Natly Denise.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Nightly with Natly, a segment of Unravel with Natly Denise. This is my nightly pod show, or if you listen to me in the morning, then this is a morning show as well. Welcome, everybody. I am extremely busy. My goodness, what did I do? I just uploaded or actually it's at 34%, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, day 7. I will also be turning this into the audio podcast right after this while I'm processing all of my audio. I have a very busy week. Just as a reminder, there will not be a Nightly with Natly for the rest of the week after today because I will be traveling out to Dallas for the Reawakening tour. And so with that being said, I will be unavailable, as I am sure I will be conversing with a lot of wonderful people. And so don't stay up for me for the next 3 days because I will not be here. So let's get started straight into the business. Counter Trafficking Alliance. You guys, you probably haven't heard about much, but that's because we've been devising a plan. And this is an organization that is aimed to combat trafficking. And we have a lot of different various plans in place. The first one is research. So we've got a bunch of volunteers that are going to complete some research and enlist in finding some info out for us, because that's going to be our first step in identifying the needs of all of these organizations. Very excited about that. If you're interested in volunteering and you're a great researcher, you can go to countertraffickingalliance.com and volunteer there. And that's the best process for us to get in touch with you. All right, let's get straight in. Let's get into the news. Share my screen. All right. A lot of interesting pieces tonight. Variety, starting off with Variety. Drake withdraws his 2020 nominations. Drake has withdrawn his 2 2022 Grammy nominations, a representative for the Recording Academy has confirmed to Variety. Representatives for Drake did not immediately respond for requests to comment. Sources tell Variety that the decision was made by Drake and his management, and the Grammys honored the request. Although his motivation is unclear at the time of his article's publication, Drake was one of the 5 nominees for the Best Rap Album for Certified Lover Boy and for the Best Rap Performance for his song Way Too Sexy. Rather than giving a nomination to the recipients of the 6 most votes, as the Academy did with they decided to expand the top 4 categories. The voting for those 2 rap categories will go forward with just 4 nominees, presumably because the voting period has already begun. Grammy ballots were posted for voting members on Monday morning. So I can only imagine, because this is just going into Grammy details, Grammy. I can only imagine, because you guys know that Drake is implicated in the whole Afterworld tragedy that happened here in Houston, Texas. I can only imagine that this is one of the reasons why he is retracting his nomination. He was on stage reportedly and allegedly by a lot of witnesses that were at the concert, that himself as well as Travis Scott, they kept on egging on the crowd to continue, even though there were multiple witnesses that alleged that people tried to get them to stop the concert, and even shouting things like there are people dying out in the crowd, and yet they kept continuing with the performance. Also, I think it was like a night after that, he was caught spending like $1 million at a strip club, showing that he might have not had any remorse whatsoever for his actions. So yeah, that's what I know. I don't know if that's the reason why he did that. I also know that there are many multiple mounting cases that or lawsuits that are mounting against himself and Travis Scott. So I can only imagine that maybe he received some sort of detail that was very intricate that may have pushed him to not go forward with his nomination. I just find that very, very interesting. Pivoting on. All right, this one's big. A federal judge, this is coming from Daily Mail. A federal judge blocks Biden's last remaining cocoa juice mandate rule on contractors due to the vast economic and political significance. Judges have already blocked the mandate being imposed on businesses or healthcare workers. And it starts. A federal judge on Tuesday blocked the last of Biden administration's cocoa juicing mandates for businesses, saying that the government exceeded its authority with requirement that millions of employees of federal contractors to be inoculated. The ruling was the latest setback for President Joe Biden, who announced a series of measures in September aimed to increasing the cocoa juicing rates to fight the pandemic that continues to kill more than what they allege 1,000 Americans per day. With Tuesday's ruling, the three of Biden's broad cocoa juice mandates affecting the private sector may have been put on hold by the courts. Judges already issued a stay regarding that one that applies to businesses with 100 or more employees, and another for juicing mandates targeting healthcare workers across the USA. Continued on. They say abuse of power by the Biden administration has been stopped cold again, says Alan Wilson, a Republican who serves as South Carolina's Attorney General. U.S. District Judge Stan Baker in Savannah, Georgia, and Congress did not clearly authorize the president to use the procurement to impose the cocoa juice requirement on contractors that will have a vast economical and political significance. He ruled that an Executive 14042, which is on September 9th, brought in the mandate for federal contractors, was not lawful. The court finds that plaintiffs have a likelihood of proving that Congress, through the language it used, did not clearly authorize the president to issue that kind of mandate contained in EO 14042, as EO 14042 goes far beyond addressing administrative management issues in order to promote efficiency and economy in procurement and contracting, and instead an application works as a regulation of public health, which is not clearly authorized under the Procurement Act 9, wrote Baker in his ruling. While the Procurement Act explicitly and unquestionably bestows some authority upon the president, the court is unconvinced at this stage of the litigation that it authorized him the direct type of actions by agencies that are contained in EO 14042. So the lawsuit was filed by the states of Georgia, Alabama, Indiana, Kansas, South Carolina, Utah, and West Virginia, as well as a trade group for building contractors. The rule required contractors to have employees fully juiced by January 18th. So that is some ringing good news, I guess, towards the end of the year. I mean, some good news, right? Some good news is good. Some good news is good, right? Yeah, I would think so. But yes, his mandate was stopped according to the courts. Now, if we can only get a lot of these people who keep by the judgment of their own authority, stop imposing these things on people who should have a choice in this, right? Pivoting on. Okay, so I found this very interesting and gross. But it's important for you to know. If you are traveling for the holidays, you're staying in hotels, and sometimes these hotels have, continental breakfast, which I love, by the way. Free breakfast. Hello, I'm there. Free coffee, free eggs. Well, an ex-hotel worker reveals vile reasons to avoid the continental breakfast. Oh, this is coming from the New York Post. Oh, darn it. And I just booked a hotel too that continental breakfast. I'm like, yes, I'm always for continental breakfast. Anyway, let's get to it. Welcome to the breakfast flub. A former hotel employee from Tennessee revolted social media users after divulging the disgusting reasons why guests should forego eating breakfast at lower tier hotels. A revealing video of her culinary cautionary tale has topped 1.5 million views on TikTok. If your hotel serves like hot continental breakfast or whatever, eggs, waffle, stuff like that, don't eat that S, says Brandy Augustus, who's worked in hospitality industry and the front desk as a night auditor for a combined 15 years. The Knoxville resident started her career at a high-end hotel, but moved on to more budget-conscious accommodations where she discovered that the food safety standards were less than stellar. And over a 2-minute video PSA titled "Don't Eat That Free Breakfast," Augustus explains how the night auditor who was training her taught her to use one paper towel all night to clean everything from tables and spatulas. Ew! Yuck! I really hope this is not the case for everybody. His rationale: it was environmentally friendly. Stop! Ew! Yo! Okay, please tell me that this is not every single hotel. This is really, really gross. Yuck. Yuck. They're saying, okay, this is environmentally friendly. You only use one towel for everything. My goodness, this is nasty. Continued on. All these climate change environmentalists. Of particular concern was the handling of raw bread pastries. The horrified ex-employee told Jam Press, gloves weren't used and hands weren't washed. This was the food that was removed from the buffet from the morning prior, so who knows how many sets of hands had touched it all, she explained, adding that the bread and pastries especially are often recycled and picked over days. Augustus also advocated steering clear of the meat at most places, as sausage is not supposed to be gray. Oh no! The crown jewel of contamination was apparently the waffle station, which workers not only didn't always clean, but were also reused leftover batter until it was started to smell like beer, per the clip. Yuck. Oh my. Well, thank you for your PSA, ma'am. When I was told to smell the waffle batter to check if it was still good, I just lost all hope, Augustus told Jam Press. The ill-fated training session that completely soured my stomach, as the batter had a slight smell to it, but the container was a little over half full. So instead of wasting the old batter, I was told to just mix the new batter into it and the smell would go away. Yuck! The smell was bacteria multiplying. Yuck! Unfortunately, the then delusioned gal reported the problems to management. They brushed them off, claiming they passed health checks so they couldn't be doing bad. Oh my gosh. Yo, and they never alerted inspectors. That's yucky. So FYI, for those that are staying at hotels, please adhere to her warning. I will definitely be, I don't know. Like, I just booked a hotel. What am I supposed to do? Oh, sorry. Thanks, Nat. Totally ruined my dinner. I apologize. I didn't know they were going to go into this type of detail, but hey, I'd rather y'all be informed about the ill protocols or the lack of protocols being taken at these hotel, continental breakfasts, because this is really, really vile. So I just thought I'd let you know. Sorry for ruining your snacks, but yeah, environmentalist ideology. They're saying just use one towel for everything because it's environmentally friendly. Okay, yuck. Now I can't eat continental breakfast. All right, going into it. Holly Madison from the New York Post. Holly Madison. You guys remember that? What was it? What was that show on MTV? Was it MTV or VH1? Was it Girl Next Door? The Hugh Hefner reality TV series? You guys remember that? Holly Madison, life in Playboy Mansion was gross. Drugs were used for sex. Actually, I'm going to utilize this now for the Daily TrafficK because this actually transitions very well. So we're now walking into the Daily TrafficK. Holly Madison, former Playboy Mansion girlfriend of Hugh Hefner, says, an ex-playmate is calling foul play at Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion. I felt like I was in a cycle of gross things I didn't know what to do, Holly Madison, former Playboy pinup and ex-girlfriend of the late Hefner, says in an explosive new clip for the forthcoming A&E docuseries Secrets of Playboy. In a preview for the 10-hour exploration into the once heralded Playboy empire set to debut January 24th, Madison, 41, unveils the mental and emotional anguish she endured as a playmate from 2001 to 2008 at the hands of Hefner, who died in the sepsis in 2017 at the age of 91. I got to a point where I kind of broke under the pressure and being made to feel like I needed to look exactly like everybody else, says Madison, who starred in one of Hef's 3 voluptuous lover girls on E's. Oh, it was on E! series, The Girls Next Door. It was that name. The blonde bombshell said that after 6 months of living alongside the gaggle of equally fair-haired and full-figured vixens, she arbitrarily chopped off her lengthy golden locks as a confidence boost. She claims Hef's reaction to her look was a total bust. I came back with short hair and he flipped out on me, says Madison, one of the Playboy powerhouse. He was screaming at me and said it made me look old, hard, and cheap. Wow. Madison's claims of Hefner's outrage are confirmed on the show by friend Jonathan Baker. I remember when she cut her hair, the mogul's buddy said he was very unhappy about it. Yep, his world Hef would be pretty abrasive, and the way he said things to Holly chimes the former playmate and Madison's girl next door co-star 𝐵𝑗𝑡. She'd come home with red lipstick one time and he flipped out. He said he hated red lipstick on girls and he told her that she needed to take it off right away, adds 𝐷𝑚, who says Hefner never erupted when other playmates donned a crimson red color. So it sounds like he was bullying Holly Madison. It was very frustrating to live every day, she continues, all of the drama that was going on and the tension. I could definitely see that Madison was getting depressed and sad, and her demeanor was starting to change. Shoo. So she wasn't the only one to experience Hugh Hefner's sinister side. Hef pretended that he wasn't involved in any hard drug use at the mansion, but that was just a lie, says Hefner's ex Sandra Theodore, a playmate from 76 to 81. Quaaludes down the line were used for sex, she says, not the lovely sensation the hypnotic seductive induces. Usually you took half of a Quaalude, but if you took two, you'd pass out. Theodore 64 reveals there was such a seduction, and men knew that they could get girls to do just about anything they wanted if they gave them a Quaalude. Wow. I mean, I knew that was a dirty atmosphere, but I didn't know it was, I don't know why I didn't suspect it was like that, but that is exploitive, okay? This is exploitive 100%. So they would make these girls like borderline pass out and then maybe have sexual encounters with them. Continued. Hefner's former secretary and executive assistant corroborated Theodore's claims of the tycoon's penchant for drugging women. Quaaludes were what we called leg spreaders. That was the whole point of them, Lisa Loving-Beret tells the show. They were a necessary evil, if you will, to the partying. Beret, who worked at the Playboy Mansion from 77 to 89, admits to joining Hefner and his executive staffers in securing prescriptions for medications in order to maintain a steady flow of drugs into his lair of lust. Okay, where are the investigations? Maybe because, maybe the girls were too afraid to speak out, but yeah, this is sinister and criminal. There were prescriptions in Sandra's name, in Hef's name, and in my name and Mary's name. We kept the desk calendar and would say Lisa's Q or Hef's Q or Sandra's Q. Barrett said that the mansion's wealth of illicit substances enabled 4 or sometimes 5 prescriptions for the same medication to feed the machine. The Secrets of Playboy show will show and unearth sexual assaults, drug abuse, prostitution, suicide, murder that for more than 6 decades allegedly were sheltered by the glossy facade of Hefner's empire. Wow. I do want to see that. I do want to see that. January 24th. You guys remember when all of this was glamorized back then? Like, I remember growing up in the 90s, how all of this was really glamorized. Like, you know, the show was just like, this is what many people wanted to aspire to. There was even like a suggestive culture, like this was our pop culture, like people would suggest that they would want to be a Playboy playmate or whatever. There were a lot of merchandise like with the Playboy emblem. You guys remember that? Like in the 90s, early thousands, a lot of people like subscribed to this type of culture that was very perversive. And well, I mean, even so now, but I'm just saying, like, you know, they really wanted this to be like a thing. So anyway, wow. That is pretty revealing. January 24th again, and that's on A&E channel. This is when it premieres. All right, pivoting on. This is coming from 22WWLP.com. 2 Springfield residents charged in connection with human trafficking. 2 people from Springfield are charged in connection to human trafficking, according to the Springfield Police Department. 20-year-old Savannah Savard and 25-year-old Wesley Bowleg of Springfield are charged with 3 counts of human trafficking. Savard was arrested on Thursday by the Springfield Police Department Special Victims Unit and the Massachusetts State Police for a Hamden Superior Court arrest warrant, and co-conspirator Bowleg was charged in November. No further details have been released due to the nature of the case, as it still remains active and ongoing. Springfield Police Department urges that if you feel like you were a victim of a sex crime, to contact Springfield Police Department Special Victims Unit at 413-787-63852. I'm sorry. 413-787-6352. That was the number. Continued on. 11 arrested for sex trafficking, child exploitation in St. George. In early November, 11 suspects, and I'm sorry, this is coming from upr.org, 11 suspects connected with sex trafficking and other sexual exploitation crimes were arrested in St. George Dixie State University. Chief of Police Blair Barfus was a crucial part in investigating the federal investigation. Barfus, who is cross-deputized to work with the FBI on federal investigations, said his agents set up a plan to lure in suspects by communicating with them online while pretending to be minors. We have multiple agents and task force officers that proactively go on social media platforms and other internet web-based programs and just start monitoring and checking out messaging platforms, Barfus said. Barfus said that there were certain words and signs that agents look for when monitoring messages online that indicate suspicious activity. Although St. George is a small town that was considered very safe, I'm gonna pinpoint on this point. Barfus said that this is a huge misconception that can lead to danger. Locals should always have their guard up and remember to communicate on social media platforms safely. There's not an area or location that is safe from a crime, including human trafficking and child exploitation, Barfus said. A lot of time, those who are looking to commit this kind of crime or do this kind of criminal behavior look for communities similar to St. George, where it is typically quiet and peaceful. Okay, so let's go back to this point. Although St. George is a small town and is considered to be very safe, Barfus said that this is a huge misconception that can lead to danger. So I wanted to make this point because in any town, small, big, city, mega, whatever, there is always going to be sexual exploitation, no matter what. There's always going to be someone out for kids. There's always going to be someone out to get sexual gratification. There is always going to be this. No matter how safe or leave it to Beaver the town may be, this will, wherever there's people, wherever there is people, don't know why I'm mispronouncing that word, wherever there is people, there is sexual exploitation. Doesn't matter how safe it looks. So that being said, continue on to the next story. This is coming from justice.gov. 4 defendants sentenced in connection with the trafficking a 13-year-old minor victim. In other words, a child. Miami, Florida, 4 defendants were sentenced in connection with their roles in trafficking a 13-year-old minor child victim through the use of online advertisement. The sentences ranged from 16 to 10 years of imprisonment, 15 to 10 years for supervised release, plus restitution and a lifetime of registration as a sexual offender. From approximately May 29 to 2019 to June 4th of 2019, Jeremiah Horenstein, 24, Raquel Levette Bajo, 22, and Ashton Gary Lewinson, 26, took the child to engage in at least 100 commercial sex acts at hotels and private residences throughout Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties. On June 5th, 2019, Bajo recruited the minor victim to work for Suprina Blanc, 29, who further posted online advertisements for minor victim to engage in commercial sex acts. So they all, the defendants pled guilty and continued on. This case was brought on part of Project Safe Childhood. So they're sentenced. But again, I mean, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? What, like, is 10 years enough for you? Like, do you think that these child exploiters getting 10 years, do you think that's enough? 16 to 10 years. 16 months, I'm sure it means 16 months to 10 years. 10 years is a max. What do you guys think on that part? Because I think I just like, I keep repeating it. Something has to be overhauled in the justice system. This is just way too light. And then within that, you know, all these bail reforms get passed and these people get let out really soon, especially recently. It's really troubling. Anyway, moving on to NLTimes.nl. Half of human trafficking survivors fall victim again within 7 years. This is a very important informational piece. Half of the human trafficking victims will become be victims of the crime again within 7 years, concluded Herman Bolher of the National Rapporteur of Human Trafficking Sexual Violence Against Children in the Victim Monitor Human Trafficking 2016 through 2020. Victims really need to be better and actively protective to prevent recurrence or worse, said Bolher. The cocoa pandemic has also additional adverse consequences for the victims, of course. And you guys know why, right? Because number one, they're locked down in most of these, very strict areas or geographic areas. How do you know what's going on behind closed doors? How do you know if these kids or these victims are trapped behind closed doors with their captors? How are we supposed to know that if they're not in the public and we can't view for signs? They can't go to school and teachers can't look for signs. That this is a big problem. Not on top of that, be it whatever your choice is, when you force these face muzzles on children, how are you supposed to identify them if they are missing? To prevent victims of human trafficking from being hit again, more attention should be paid to the circumstances in which the exploitation occurs and the problems that the victim faces. Whether victims receive the right help depends on the things like residency status, place of residence, and age, but help must match the needs of the victim, says Bolher. In 2020, there were 984 reports of human trafficking in the Netherlands. So this is a Netherlands-based report. But I can say that it's way comparable, and we have a higher ratio here in the United States. That was a decrease compared to the 1,334 reports in 2019. The reduced travel movements and limitations to detection and identification due to cocoa restrictions seem to have caused this, the report said. This is undoubtedly reflected in the figures for victims for criminal exploitation and sexual exploitation of people without a Dutch passport. These reports decreased from 668 in 2019 to 289. And thus they become less visible, as I just explained, and that's what they explain next. All right. Moving on. A court sentences a man to 7 years in jail for trafficking girls from Rivers to Libya. This is coming from the cable.ng. And this is international news, more so. A federal high court sitting in Kano has sentenced one 𝐓𝐫𝐿𝐾, aged 27, to 7 years in prison for trafficking 2 girls from Rivers State to Libya. Jane Young, the presiding judge in the court sitting on Tuesday, convicted 𝐂𝐸𝐫𝐿𝐾, after he pleaded guilty to 2 counts preferred against him by the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. In Young sentenced the 27-year-old to 7 years in prison and also imposed a N1 million fine to each of the 2 counts preferred against the victim. Abdoulaye Babel counsel NAPTIP had earlier told the court that the convict had on September 30th trafficked Chinanza Igu aged 17, from Imo State and Good News Akim to Libya. Babel said that 𝐓𝐫𝐿𝐾 allegedly connived with, or I guess conspired with, his one brother who is at large to commit the offense and engage the girls in prostitution. According to the NAPTIP counsel, a trip originated from the Port Harcourt in River State en route to Kano. So that being said, so that is the pod. It was pretty short today, but hopefully it was insightful, full of news. And as always, I appreciate you all. I really love you guys so much for your support. And I will be back on Monday. So I will be skipping the next 3 days, as I will be at the Reawakening tour covering the media there. But I will still be covering the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, as it transpires. So I will still, if you want to look out for that, that's on my main channel, the Natly Denise. So that's youtube.com/Natly Denise. To keep up with the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. With that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the week and weekend. I will catch you on Monday. Have a wonderful day. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Unravel with Natly Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.